So we are starting with the second day of our demonstration, and till here we had done yesterday, and we are progressing from there. So I have painted this petal with a layer of water, and I'm applying a very pale pink on it right now according to the shapes which I see in my reference image. For the purposes of your understanding, I have also put on a photograph of the painting up so that you can understand where we are heading and how we are painting that area. Now here I have some of the paint has crossed over to the next petal, so that is what I'm trying to lift, and I'm using a flat brush for that. And I have wet that area, and having wet that, I'm gently scrubbing it with my flat brush. Now I am using Mr. Clean Magic Eraser because the paint was a bit staining and was not going away. Now it has gone out, and so I will just dab it with the tissue. I am painting water over the next petal. As always, we will start with a wet on wet wash first. So I'm looking at my reference, and then I'm putting in the marks as I see on the reference image. Slightly curvy marks these are. There's a little bit more water over here, so any dry brush you can use and lift off any extra water. That is necessary because you must be remembering in the practice exercise which we did, I had asked that there shouldn't be any pool of water because then the color will spread in a way in which you may not want. And this is a very light colored pink rose, light pink rose, so we need to maintain the values very efficiently, so that because only when we are doing the shadows will the natural realism of the flower come up. So we need to maintain the values, so I'm using very pale and light consistencies, just like here. Because the paper is already wet, I can put a very pale consistency of my pink color. This is just water right now on my brush, and I'm wetting the area because it is very dry over here and the water is drying up very quickly because of the dryness in the atmosphere. I'm just looking at the reference, and I've picked up a pale pink color and I'm putting that in. I'm going as per the marks I have made, the lines, the veins which I have traced down during the line drawing. So that part of that flower, one wash has been done, and over here I see there is some more water and paint getting mixed, so I don't want the paint to get mixed in that water. So with a thick brush I lifted extra water and paint from there. Nevertheless, we do need the blurry lines, and because there is even less water on the paper now on that petal, so we can go ahead and make our blurry lines. So I think I'll just about leave this petal for now and move to another section. Get off some more water from here. That's a dry brush with which you can lift water. This is size 5 synthetic round brush I'm using. I'm only using this brush because it has a round pointed tip which will allow me to place the marks exactly where we want them to be. I felt that there was little more paint, so I'm just blurring out the edges because there shouldn't be any hard line anywhere here. And see over here I've gone out of the boundary, so I'm taking with my flat brush I'm taking it out. It is better if we correct any mistakes in this flower right away, because we are working with paler consistencies and some of your paints could be staining paint as well. So if you want to not get a stain on at a place where we don't want, it's better to get it off right away. So this is another petal which is slightly in the shadow. So having applied water, I'm using my purple color, and on top of that I'm using some blue as well. Now you see there's another mistake which is happening, that there is slightly more water here on the paper where the shine is. So what I'll do is that if I don't have any other brush, let's say I'm just painting with this brush, then I just squeeze out the paint from my brush on the palette, and with the dry brush now I soak up the extra water. Now this is a eraser, the kneaded eraser which I am using because I need to work in this lighter section here, and I see that my pencil marks are quite dark, which we don't want on the flower, so we can erase just before we want to paint that area. As always, we'll first go with a layer of water, and then on top of it we apply paint with a smaller brush. Now we are doing this section. I have put my finger so that I can understand. These are very uh, mixed up kind of shapes, so be very careful while doing them. Do a small part at a time. Concentrating on a very small area will help us deliver the right kind of results on the paper. This is another very small section which I have done only wet on dry, no wetting of the paper with water, because it is a very small section. In here, however, this is a largish section, the one I am pointing with my finger, this one. And whatever colors I see at the base, I see a mix of pink and red, so I have picked up that color on my brush after having wetted the paper, as you saw. And I am following according to the lines I have made. Okay, so when I moved my hand out of the screen, I was just taking water. It is so very dry that it's drying up in seconds. So let's concentrate here. Purple. These veins will blur out because there is water on the surface. Here there was a bit of pink as I see in the reference image, and so I put some pink here. I took some water. Do I need to lighten it more? Remember, I'm trying to get the values right. So in this section I see some reds as well. So I'm taking red straight from my palette. Just going outside the boundary, so I just used the tissue paper to lift the color. And now I'm creating veins. It's not exactly veins, it's a shape which I see on my reference image. It is very pale. There's a very light shape also which I am creating now. I'm just getting some water and taking some pink color. Pink is drying up, so I just mixed it with the water on my brush and I'm putting it here. This is the part that we are doing now, placing in the pinks. It's looking dark, but it will dry lighter. The next section is the shadow section, the cast shadow on the other leaf, on the other petal. So having wet the area, I am putting in pink. I have also put red mixed with pink in the front section. In the central area I see some purple, so I will put some purple in the central area also, but I am putting it here because the petal is downwards over here, and that's why it can go with some purple also. At this stage in the central section I am just using water. Just adding water here. Pulling the paint with the water. Very pale it is. Here bringing in the darker colors. Slight bit of shadow in the shadow area. We can also put purple. And now we will do this thin area, pink area. I'm just rubbing off some of the graphite from the tracing because this is off-white area, so I don't want the pencil marks to be there. Wetting the area, and I've put some colors on that as well as down below where we have a curve structure. One thing to be noted is that you can see that I've placed my watercolor paper and the reference image in the same direction in which I require it. If the base of my painting is towards my hand, I've kept the reference image, the base of the reference image also towards my hand. Yeah, I'm putting a pale purple. And I see that there is some dark color here which is pink, reddish pink, so I took some red out of my palette. placing in a mark which I see a darkish mark, and then I will blend it out because I did not wet this area. Blending it out will not create any hard line edge. Now blending. There are some small lines over here, so I'm creating those with pink. This area is in the shadow. You can go a little darker here. So I added pink over there, and now I'm applying water on this area where it is very pale. So I'm using pale pink. Once it dries out, we'll be able to see it properly, but right now it's looking quite pale, little difficult to see, but observation is the name of this game. I'm creating these lines, but I'm not going towards the edge, the outer edge. This area can go little darker, so I'm putting in another layer. Here it is a darkish line, that's why I've created that line. And now I'm mixing this with just water. We are going to do another layer over here, so I'm just putting in the color purple. Water, and I'm dragging this color little bit with the water which I'm taking now. The pink is okay. Yeah, some pink over here. I'm wetting this area down for the next layer. And there's a slightly darker line here. And I'm placing my pinks here. It's drying up quickly, so I think I'll have to lighten that darkish line over there as well. We'll come to that later on once we do the third layer. Here again it's a shadow area, so I'm bringing in some more paint and now some water. Okay, this part we have done, so we'll do this section, the petal section here. It's very blurry. Very blurry means not only do we have to do wet on wet, but the shapes for the shapes which when we do, We will use very pale consistency of color. Using pink now. Try to observe the shapes carefully so that you can place in your pinks properly at the given places. If you have done a line drawing, nice one, then you can manage this part as well. Some violets I see, purple, wiping off the purple on a tissue paper. Because I need to use some pinks next, so I'm taking the pinks, and I didn't want the purple to get mixed, so I wiped it off on the tissue. Here you see there's some pale pink. It's looking a bit too dark, so dab it. We do have a relatively definite edge over here because the central area is kind of pale and then this petal comes out. So the start of the petal will have some darker values. So I am adding the darker values over here in red. I do think there is some purple on my brush, but it is not a great impediment because this part of the petal is in relative shadow as I see on my reference image. So I'm continuing with it using some water. Just water again over here also. Rubbing off some of the darker lines. This looks like a complicated area, but it is not actually. There are, if you wet it down, you can look at the color variations and add those colors. Like in here I am adding some pinks and violets, pinks and purples, some reddish pink here. This is the shadow area, so we can go slightly darker right now. And if you're getting any hard line edge or if it's drying up, you can quickly blend it with some water. So we are almost done for the day. I'll see you again. If you have any problem, please